The scenario was nothing new for the Bison men's basketball team heading into last night. Survive and advance, as it did throughout the Summit League tournament. NDSU won 3 games in 3 nights behind excellent performances top to bottom in Sioux Falls. The team proved it could play loose and confident. Now against the UNC Central Eagles in front of a national audience, the stage was set for the Bison to prove once again they belonged in the field of 64, with the winner set for a date with Duke on Friday. So let's see how the program fared as they were looking for just their second tournament win in the Division I era. Here we are, the Bison and the Eagles taking each other on last night in Dayton. The Eagles, the champions of the MEAC Conference, the Bison, the champions of the Summit League. Early in the first half, it's Chris Quayle probing the defense and feeding it out to Tyree Edey from outside. He had 7 points in this one off the bench for the Bison. Later, Cameron Hunter off a screen, count that one and the foul. He also had 7 points off the bench for the Bison in this effort. Bison with the early lead in the first half. Now Hunter's going to fire it ahead to Tyson Ward ahead of the pack, and he's going to lay it in with his left hand. Bison led by 6 at the break, 40-34. Later, he's going to catch a pass from Rocky Cruiser and knock down this 3 to put the Bison up by 10. They lead by as much as 13 in the second half before the Eagles came storming back. As it is Larry McKnight Jr. wide open in the left corner, knocking this 3 down to tie the game at 58. Then later, he's going to catch this pass and knock this 3 down to put the Eagles up by 5. Late in the second half, but the Bison would retake the lead. Tyson Ward would then go to work on the low block, spins past his defender and lays it in, and then he's back on the block again. And he's going to power his way past his defender and score again. And the Bison would hang on and win this game by the final score of 78-74. Tyson Ward finished with 23 points and 6 rebounds. Vinny Sheed also chipped in with 14 points in the effort as well for NDSU. Their next game will be played tomorrow night in Columbia, South Carolina. It's the number 1 overall seed, the Duke Blue Devils. The game will tip off at 6:10 p.m. and that can be seen on CBS. With the first 4 matchups wrapping up last night in Dayton, here's a quick recap of the first round games from earlier today. The first game of the day featured the first upset as 10th-seeded Minnesota beat 7th-seeded Louisville by 10 points. 2 games that went down to the wire saw 5th-seeded Auburn and 6th-seeded Maryland narrowly avoid upsets by 1 and 2 points respectively. One game that also just finished recently resulted in an upset as 12th-seeded Murray State took down 5th-seeded Marquette. There are no buzzer beaters yet to report on as of this recording, and the first round will continue tomorrow night before the second round runs from Saturday until Sunday. The NDSU women's basketball team is undergoing a national search to find their next head coach, as the university and former coach Maren Walseth mutually agreed to part ways last week. The Bison finished 7th in the Summit League for a 3rd consecutive season after a 7-22 record this year, which included losing 10 of its final 11 games. Walseth was hired in 2014 following prior coach Carolyn DeHoff's 6-year run and won 11 games in her first season, a number the program would ultimately not improve upon under her leadership. NDSU went 40-106 in the 5 seasons under Walseth, including 19-59 in conference play. The program has yet to make it to the NCAA tournament in the Division I era and has not had a winning season since 2010. Following a 1-3 start to their 12 games in the state of Florida, the Bison softball team has since caught fire, winning each of its last 8 games. 5 of those 8 have been decided by 2 runs or fewer, and the team won all 7 games it played in Clearwater, Florida. With this run of success, NDSU is now 18-11 on the season, though they have yet to defeat a ranked team. Bison players took both the Summit League Player and Pitcher of the Week honors, won by redshirt senior Katie Schultz and sophomore Kara O'Byron, respectively. Schultz hit for a .458 average and stole 5 bases last week in Clearwater, and O'Byron allowed 1 run in 13 1/3 innings over 2 starts. NDSU is back in action this Saturday, traveling to Fort Wayne, Indiana, to take on the Mastodons as they begin Summit League Conference play. In the time past since our previous newscast aired live, and for this one to go live, the Bison track and field teams ended their indoor season and started their outdoor season. But if there's one constant for each of these programs during this time, they continue to perform at a high level. Peyton Otterdahl became the first Bison individual national champion in the Division I era when he won the shot put title back on March 8th. The next day, he won the weight throw title, becoming just the second athlete in NCAA history to win both throwing titles. Now the outdoor season has started, and NDSU picked up right where they left off. Bison athletes took part in 2 invitationals last week in Bradenton, Florida and Tempe, Arizona, after both teams were picked to finish first in the Summit League this outdoor season. For the women's team, junior Amy Harrington won the hammer throw event in Tempe, and Amanda Levin won the long jump and 400-meter hurdles in Bradenton, among other Bison victories. As for the men's team, it was Otterdahl again stealing the spotlight as he set personal bests in the hammer throw and discus events in Tempe, and down in Bradenton, Bison athletes won 10 separate events. Not much else to be said on that. Both teams will travel to Austin, Texas next week to continue their seasons. And finally, yet another one of Major League Baseball's biggest names got paid a hefty sum this week. Mike Trout has signed the richest contract in professional sports history, and yes, that last part does sound familiar. The Los Angeles Angels outfielder will sign a 10-year, $363 million extension to remain with the team. He was set to hit free agency after the 2020 season, but the Angels decided to show Trout the money in advance, bringing his contract's total to 12 years, $430 million. The previous largest contract was just signed last month by current Philadelphia Phillies outfielder Bryce Harper. This tops his dollar figure by $100 million. Trout has only been to the playoffs once in his career and is likely to get plenty of opportunity to play in October by the time this contract expires. Now back to the Bison. It was a really nice game. I thought they played down in Dayton. It was a nice performance. What did you guys think about that game?
I thought it was great. I'm really excited to watch them play tomorrow night against Duke.
I thought they played exceptionally well. They were really good shooting the basketball. The only really issue I saw was their rebounding. They had a little bit of issue rebounding the ball, but other than that, they played excellent defense. They played really well offensively and were able to ultimately pull away from NC Central in the end.
Any vague score predictions for tomorrow night's game?
I can't speculate.
As long as the Bison can keep it under like a 30-point loss, I think I'll be pretty happy.
Fair enough, fair enough. And you can also catch Joe and I on our weekly talk show, X's and O's. We'll be discussing all 30 Major League teams as Major League Baseball season will fully get underway in the coming weeks.
Up next, psychics and mediums were giving out readings to NDSU students.
When we come back.